Correct. So in last session we was discussed about how what is system program, how to implement system programs, and how to design operating system. So in this session we are going to discussing about operating system structure. While we are going to designing or implementing the operating system, whatever the structure we are follow to implement to design such operating system, like Android or Windows or Unix or Mac or any others. So in today's session, we will discuss what are the structures of the operating system. So here, actually, while we are going to implement any operating system, so to provide the user required services by the such operating system. So for that purpose, it requires very huge number of lines of code to develop this such operating system. So that means very simply, which is a very large program. So that's why while we are going to developing the operating system, so at that situation we can use the different structures. For example, we can consider some simple structure for developing the operating system, that is the MS-DOS. So Microsoft DOS, Disk Operated System, DOS indicates. And in case we want to discuss about some more complex structure, so that is Unix operating system. So here MS-DOS is the simple structure, and Unix is the some complex structure, and some layered structure also we are used to developing the operating systems. So in this layered structure we are hiding the abstraction. So we are providing the abstraction from one level to another level. For example, level 0 to level 1. So what happened at level 0? So such entire thing was abstracted by the level 1. So level 2 was abstract the whatever the functionality of the layer 1. So in this manner. And we can also develop some microkernels also. So already we know what is meant by kernel. So we are again use some microkernels. So that means the subkernels of the kernel. So especially we are such microkernel is also known as the some Mac program. So these are the different structures we are used to developing the operating system. So simple structure, complex structure, a layered structure, or some microkernels. So now we observe some simple structure, how to develop the operating systems by using the simple structure. So here we can clearly observe. So first top level of the this operating system is some application program. So this application program was providing the interface with some system program, and this system program is interacted with the drivers, and these drivers are interacts with the basic hardware. So this is the basic simple structure of the operating system. So this structure can followed by the MS-DOS operating system. So here we are implementing this MS-DOS operating system. So with the easy and least functionality space. So why? Because here in MS-DOS we are not divide entire operating system into any submodules or any modules. So that means entire operating system was developed as a single entity. And here we are using to develop this MS-DOS operating system. We can follow some simple structure. So that is we are using some number of interfaces and some levels of the functionalities. So with the combination of these interfaces and functionalities, we can developing the some operating system. But here these the difference are these interfaces and functionalities doesn't separated properly in MS-DOS operating system. Why? Because here we are using the some simple structure. So that's why.
ఇంకా జాయిన్ అవుతున్నా సార్.
Sorry.
ఇంకా జాయిన్ అవుతున్నా అండి, జాయిన్ చేసి.
ఆటో అడ్మిట్ ఉంది కదమ్మా. Okay, so that's why here MS-DOS was follows the some simple structure. So that's why it was not divide entire functionality into some modules. That's why here we are not able to differentiate is there proper variation between the interfaces and the functionalities. So in case we are using any complex structure or non-simple structure, then we can easily develop such a complex operating system by following the complex structure. So why? Because here we are divide entire task or entire operating system responsibilities into several submodules or several modules. Again, those modules are divided into several submodules. That's why we can easily implement such large and complex operating systems. So that's why here in non-simple structured operating systems, especially in Unix, so this operating system has having some limited structure. So that means we are not able to adding any additional features or any additional modules to the existing ones. So that means only some restricted some consistent of modules or consistent of separatable operations only performed by the or implemented by the non-simple structure, that means complex structured operating systems. So those are system programs, kernel, and that's it. System programs and kernel. After that, hardware. So these are the major separatable parts. So that means entire operating system was majorly divided into two categories or two separatable parts. Those are system programs and the kernel. So already we know what is system program. Just in last session we was discussed. So the system program is used to providing the proper interface with the system call. So for that purpose we are using the system programs. And coming to the kernel, so this kernel is the major part of the operating system. Why? Because it was always runs until power of this such operating system. It was runs continuously to getting the interfaces from the any system calls to the hardware. So for that purpose we are using the kernel. So here in this, the file system or CPU scheduling or memory management or any other operating system functions can be used or can be provided in the kernel. So these all things can be handled by the kernel. So files, that means to create a file or remove a file or delete or update or read or write or copy. So these all things, and scheduling. So that means which program can runs at which time, and memory management and some other functions. These all things can be controlled by the kernel. So now we observe what is the structure of the Unix operating system. So here in top level, so these are the users. So users are trying to interface with the kernel. So in between the users and the kernel we are using the some system programs or some application programs. Those are the some shells or some command prompts, either compilers, interpreters, or any other system libraries. So with the help of these we can interact with the kernel. So then kernel can perform the user required application or user required process. So here in between the user and the kernel we are using the some system programs or application programs. So these programs are responsible for providing the proper interface with the kernel. So once the kernel was interfaced with the user, then it can perform anything. So either like it can terminating the any signals and handling the any signals or any IOs, either input or outputs, these all things. At the same way, file system or memory management, CPU scheduling. So these all things can be properly implemented or properly managed by the kernel. So after that, this kernel was providing the interfaces with the any specific controllers like terminal controllers, device controllers, or memory controllers. So this is the structure of the Unix system or complex operating systems. So here user was interfaced with the kernel was interfaced with the controllers, so to control anything or any device. So next, coming to the another approach of operating system structures, that is layered approach. So in this approach, entire process of the operating system was divided into several layers. That is either two or more layers. So here layer 0 indicates always hardware components of the that particular system, and layer n indicates the user interface. Layer 0 indicates the hardware and layer n indicates the user interface. In between we are using any number of layers, so that is nothing but the layered approach. So here, based on the user requirements, number of layers will be increased. So that means to providing the some specific functionality, for that purpose we are using one layer. Some other functionality, for that purpose we are using the some another layer. So in this way we are using some n number of layers. Out of these, layer 0 is always hardware and layer n is the highest priority. So that is the users. So in between, based on our requirements, we can implement or we can use any number of layers. So this is the layered architecture or layered approach to develop the operating systems. And next, coming to the another one, so that is microkernel system structure. How we are going to implement the microkernels in operating systems. So first of all, why we are using the microkernel? So this microkernel is majorly responsible for moving the control from kernel into the user space. So for that purpose, basically we are using the microkernels, and then at the same way, so this microkernel system is easy to expand the any existing operating system, or easy to migrate any new features with the existing operating system. So for that purpose, basically we are using the microkernels. So for example, best example for the microkernel is the Mac, MACH. So this is the some subkernel or microkernel of the Mac OS X. So in this Mac OS, we are using the Match or Mac microkernel. So this microkernel is majorly responsible for providing the proper communications in between the user modules and kernel. So for that purpose, basically we are using this particular microkernels. So with the help of these microkernels, we can easily providing the communications with the either kernel or user modules. So that's why we can use these microkernels. So now we can observe what are the several benefits of the microkernels. So here, which is easy to extend the microkernel. So that means so at the time of implementation, we are developing that particular microkernel with either few features, like either 3 features or 4 features. So after some time, if you want to add any additional feature, then it was possible with the help of microkernel easily extend such features. And here the important thing is these microkernels is easier to port the operating system to new architectures. So that means at the time of developing that microkernel based architecture, so in case we are developing that operating system or that microkernel with a few features, after that, if you want to upgrade to the any new architecture, so it was possible with the help of microkernels. And these microkernels are more reliable. Why? Because here we are using the very less coding to run the such applications in kernel mode. So that's why these are very reliable and also secure also. So these are the several benefits of the microkernels. So now we observe what is the structure of the microkernel. So before observing whatever the structure of the microkernel, we can know what is the major drawback of the microkernels. So here the major drawback with microkernel is performance overhead. So that is the major drawback of the microkernel. So that means it will degrades the performance of that particular kernel. So that is the only drawback. So now coming to the structure of the microkernel. So this is the structure of microkernel. So here, whatever in user mode, we are performing the several applications or several processes. And in kernel mode, so it was maintained or it was providing such facilities requested by the requested or asked by the users. And then we are using this a microkernel. So this microkernel is the interface between the kernel and hardware components. So here, in case if you want to update anything, so simply we can update the microkernel. Automatically, that operating system can upgrade and support it to the any newer versions or newer architectures. So that's why it was possible to easily move from one operating system to another operating system, or we can easily add some additional features to the existing operating system. So that is the reason. So this is the user mode and this is the kernel mode and this is the hardware. So here we are using the microkernel. So in user mode, we are using several applications like either file system services, either any application programs or any device drivers. So after these all are passing the messages to the kernel mode. So in this kernel mode, which is responsible for inter-process communication, memory management and CPU scheduling. So after that, we are using the microkernel. It was providing the proper interfaces with the hardware. So whenever we update this microkernel, obviously this kernel will be updated. So that's why. So that is we can easily update or upgrade such existing microkernel to the new systems architecture. So that is the reason. So now we observe whatever the several modules are used to implement the non-simple structured operating system. So that is nothing but complex structured operating system, complex structured operating systems. So here, while we are going to using the modern operating systems, in these modern operating systems, we are using the some kernel modules. So these kernel modules are easily loadable. So that means we can easily load any specific module and then use their services or their functionalities. So that's why these functionalities is user uses the object oriented approach. So that means once we can develop that particular module, so we can use that particular module in anywhere and any number of times. And here each core component is the separated. So in this, while we are going to developing the any kernel or any kernel or any operating system, we can easily separate whatever the components in that kernel or that operating system. And each talks to the others over known interfaces. That means here one module can be interfaced or talked with another module with the help of existing interfaces. So and another one is each is loadable as needed with the kernel. So whenever we want to provide any specific service, in case such a service is currently not available or not handled by that particular operating system, so at that situation we can simply add some package or some loadable package to the operating system and then we can accessing the that particular service. So these are the several advantages with the modules. And here these modules architecture based operating systems is very similar to the layer based architectures. So in layer based architectures also we are hiding the implementation of level 0 or hiding providing the abstraction from one level to the another level. So here in module systems is also we are divide entire functionality into several sub modules or several sub functionalities and then implement individually. After that we can combine those all features to getting the proper service from the operating system. So now consider several examples for the implementing the operating systems in module based. So those are Linux, Solaris and some etc. So now we observe whatever the architecture or modular approach of the Solaris operating system. So here this is the core kernel for the this architecture. So here this is the core kernel for the Solaris operating system. So this core kernel is responsible for providing the different services like device and bus drivers, either scheduling classes, file systems, loadable system calls, executable formats, stream modules, and miscellaneous modules. So these all things can be handled by the single module. So that is the kernel. So these all are the separate modules. Scheduling classes is one module, file systems is one module, either loadable system calls is the another module, either executable formats is one module. So these all modules are integrated with the kernel. So now kernel can easily interact with these all things with the provided interfaces or with the proper interfaces. So now we can observe some hybrid systems also. So in this hybrid system, that means while we are going to using the modern operating systems, that means that currently we are using the latest operating systems. So those are the modern operating systems. So in this in this modern operating system, those are implemented not on a pure based model, pure based operating system. So that means those are combination of the several operating system. That means it can combine the multiple approaches from the multiple operating systems, and then it can addresses to the performance, security, usability needs. So based on this, it can improve the performance, improve the security, and then usable needs. So why? Because it can easily combine one approach with the another approach to get the better results. So for example, either Linux and Solaris kernels in kernel address space, and those are monolithic, and those are modular for dynamic loading of functionality. So whenever we consider several operating systems like Linux or Solaris, so their kernels are having some address spaces, and those are the monolithic, and those are the modular for dynamic loading of functional. So that means those operating systems can support the modular dynamic loading structure or dynamic loading functionality. So that means we can easily or dynamically add any new functionalities to the existing operating system. So that is hybrid systems. So for example, we consider either Windows. So this Windows is mostly monolithic operating system, and also in Windows we are using this some microkernel for the purpose of different subsystem personalization personalities. So for each and every separated subsystems, so those can be easily handled by these Windows operating system. Either Apple OS is also some hybrid and layered, and here Aqua UI plus Cocayo programming environment. So these all are the several examples for the hybrid structure of the operating systems. So now we observe what is the structure of the Mac OS. So here we can observe Mac OS structure. So previously we was observed Unix structure and microkernel based operating system structures. Now we observe Mac OS X structure. So here topmost, so this topmost is the providing the interfaces with the users. So in this we are using this particular application, that is Aqua. So it was providing the interfaces with the different environments like Java, Cocoa, and QuickTime and BSD. So some etc. So these all services can be interfaced with this one. So here these application environments or these application programs are interfaced with the kernel. So in this we can use either Mac or BSD. So after that, these are the providing interfaces with IO devices like basic input and output devices. And then it was also having some additional feature, that is the kernel extension. So we can add any additional extensions to the kernel. So these things. So this is the structure of the Mac OS structure. So starting layer is the user graphical user interface GUI, and next we are using the number of applications, and next we are interacting with the kernel, and finally we are interacting with the hardware. So now we observe Mac and similar operating system for mobiles, that is the iOS. So what is the structure in iOS? So these are the several services or several modules are used to develop the iOS operating system. That is the Cocoa, Media Services, Core Services, and Core OS. So this particular one is especially used for implementing the touch interface, touch functionalities. So that is the Cocoa, and we are using some medium services. And then some core service, each and every core, and finally we are getting this some operating system, implemented operating system. So this media service is used for implementing any graphics related, either audio or video related files. And these core services means those are providing the computing databases, like how to interacting with the database, how to access the data from database, how to store the data into the database. These are all things. So now coming to the another operating system structure, that is the Android. So now we observe what is the structure of the Android operating system. So while we are going to developing any open handset alliance, that means open source software or open source operating system. So it was mostly implemented by the Google. So here with this particular operating system is the open source, and which is a similar stacks to the iOS. So here iOS is not a open source operating system, but this Android is the open source operating system. We can easily use that particular operating system in our devices without any lags. So and here this similar stack to the iOS, that means this Android operating system is very similar to the iOS operating system. So why? Because it was based on the Linux kernel, but this operating system was slightly modified. That means it can providing the several processes and memory and device driver management and some power management. So these all functionalities can be implemented or provided by the Android operating system. And one more thing is it can also provide and it can also load some library files at runtime automatically. For example, whenever we are going to develop some application like Java Plus in Android API. So for that purpose, we must develop these Java-based applications, and then use those applications in the Android API. Android API. So that means actually we are use the Android based APK files, but it can also support the some Java class files to develop the such APKs. That means Android programming kit something. So here to developing the such files or such applications, we are using the several libraries. With the help of these library files, we can easily develop this Android operating system. So here this is the architecture of the Android based operating systems. So here top level is the application framework, and the remaining task is divided into two categories. One is the libraries and another one is the Android runtime. So this Android runtime contains some core library files and Dalvik virtual machine. And here it was having some number of library files: SQLite, OpenGL, Surface Manager, Media Framework, WebKit, LIDC. So these all are the several libraries are used in the Android. So this is the architecture of the Android operating system. That's it. So these are the details about operating system structures. In next session, we can discuss operating system debugging.